Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior and accomplished professional from the world of healthcare from Manchester, UK, Mr. Andrew Cannon. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Andrew is the Chief Executive Officer of the Medica Group, which is the leading provider of teleradiology, diagnostics, and imaging services in the UK, Ireland, and the US. He was earlier the Chief Executive Officer at Voyage Care and the Managing Director at Bupa Care Services. So, Andrew, before we start talking about the Medica Group, tell me a little bit about some of the key milestones in your professional journey leading to your current role.
Gosh, well, the first thing is I'm quite old, so I have a lot of milestones, and I'm quite experienced now. I trained as an accountant originally. I qualified. It's hard working and studying at the same time, but managed to do that and qualify. I've worked in a number of different business sectors, so retail, travel, leisure, tech, internet infrastructure, and worked for a number of different structures, so private equity owned firms or venture capital owned firms, large global corporates, small startups. I became eventually the FD or CFO of a number of businesses. And I first moved into healthcare via the route of finance. So I was working for Bupa, the large global healthcare provider, an insurer. And I loved what we did. I moved from finance into operations, and really that was where I suppose I got the bug. And somebody who was more intelligent than me would have realized this earlier on in their career, right? But what I found when I was running large call centers and large service centers and operations, clinic business claims, was that I found kind of real meaning and purpose, I suppose, in making a difference in people's lives. And from then on, I felt compelled to work in a sector where, where I feel like we are making a difference to people's lives, improving their lives, improving outcomes, extending their lives, and not to do so in an abstract sense, a few steps removed, but to do it in a very literal, direct sense. And that via Bupa, via the Voyage Care Group, ultimately brought me to where I am today in Medica.
Fascinating. What an amazing journey. Thank you for sharing this. There was another question that I had was that given the amount of work that you've spent in that time you spent in the social care and healthcare sectors, can you think of any of the very challenging decisions you had to take?
Oh, goodness me. I mean, I'm very purpose and very values led. And for me, that governs, I hope, everything that I do. And I seek to create and sustain cultures and organizations that are led and governed by that. And also by curiosity and by excellence. So I suppose that the hardest decisions are always ones about people and individual decisions. So, for me, one of the key things that a leader has to do or a senior manager has to do is to improve their team, and whether that's through coaching, investing in training or development, or whether it's swapping them out and hiring other people. Making those changes, there's always a person at the end of it, and that has a personal impact, and that takes a toll. So for me, the challenging decisions are never really about strategy or tech or investment. It's usually the kind of local and the personal and the impact you have on people's lives. So
well said.
Yeah, fortunately or unfortunately, I've had to take a lot of those decisions.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the Medica Group. Tell me a little bit about the core mission of the group. And how has it evolved in recent years?
Okay. That's a good question. So our purpose is to improve people's lives through excellence in diagnostics and research. So what that means is we're a large, as you've said, teleradiology, digital pathology provider, clinical research organization. And really, the impact that we can have is manifest in many ways. So excellence in diagnostics. So what does that mean in practice? That means high levels of accuracy, high levels of clinical quality, speed, collaboration, innovation with healthcare systems worldwide. we're increasingly moving into providing value and impact through data and insight. So one of the benefits we have in terms of aggregating what we see, we work with over 50% of the NHS here in the UK, and we work with 75-80% of the hospitals in Ireland, the HSE, which is the national healthcare system in Ireland. Mm-hmm. And actually what that means in practice is we're aggregating performance. We're aggregating scarce capacity, radiologists or pathologists, mm-hmm. to deliver excellence through diagnostics. And so what that means is we can see things through our data and reflect that back to healthcare systems that healthcare systems can't see themselves because they're just seeing a small part of the picture. So we are driven by clinical excellence through making that difference, and we're increasingly moving into how can we help and shape healthcare systems for the benefits of individuals and patients worldwide in a way that's not simply about, well, we read scans better than everybody else and we read them quicker than everybody else.
Amazing. And given the fact that you also have a growing presence in the US,
yes,
do you see the key strategic priorities of your group changing over the next 3 to 5 years?
No, I don't actually, because we're always going to be led by that purpose. We're always going to be led by making a difference in people's lives through excellence. So we're always going to start with clinical excellence. So that means that we deliver clinical excellence to patients, to our clients across the globe. So that's never going to change. The second thing, I suppose, is, well, okay, to do that, we need to give our reporters, our radiologists, pathologists, registrars, the best reporter experience. We need to give our clients the best client experience that we possibly can. Mm-hmm. We're increasingly going to be an international organization that's a single organization recognized as a global leader in telemedicine, diagnostics, and research. And we are investing very, very heavily, as you'd expect, Ashutosh, in AI and tech.
Yeah.
So we need to be leading the delivery of telemedicine, diagnostics, and research through the use of AI and tech. And that's an area where we're spending a lot of time and money and effort, as you'd expect.
Well, since you mentioned AI and tech, that gives me a segue to my next question.
Okay, great.
How are you leveraging AI and machine learning and other technology in radiology and diagnostics?
That's a really good question. I mean, we're doing a huge amount. So obviously we provide the service. Our business is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And we're providing teleradiology and pathology services to help clear urgent cases and routine backlogs. And this is an area where, you know, time is absolutely critical and can make a difference to people surviving or their life outcomes, right? So what are we doing in AI and tech? So we're partnering with trusts and with clients to offer scalable reporting around the client portal that we have around MedConnect, but we're investing in a number of tools in AI and tech. And those tools are things like AI-assisted diagnostics. So advanced tools to detect conditions like stroke, cancer, fracture, pulmonary embolism. So that's sort of clinical quality. We're investing in AI-powered triage. So how can AI quickly sort out what's urgent from what might be less urgent? We're investing in AI safety nets to support reporters in identifying critical findings through smart reporting. So that's a kind of human, skilled, scarce resource. Human has a look at something and AI can support retrospectively with, oh, did you mean to say the left or did you mean to say the right? Because last time you said the right. There's a whole amount of stuff that we're doing around workflow. So workflow is in healthcare systems can be everybody wants to look at clinical quality because that's exciting and sexy and making an obvious difference. Workflows are just as important. How does work get presented? What are the hanging protocols? How does a reporter look at the work? How does it get labeled? How does it so that it goes to the right person? How does it get labeled so that we can bill people properly or they can bill us properly? So this is about shifting the way the whole sector works, using augmented intelligence to improve patient outcomes, streamline operations, and really, ultimately, it's about getting better patient outcomes, but it's also about supporting our clients and customers who are under every developed healthcare system worldwide is under huge pressure in terms of increasing demand, usually aging populations, and not enough money. So that's where we're investing in AI and tech.
Wow, wow. And are there any specific challenges uh, being faced by the diagnostics and the teleradiology sectors in the world today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the specific challenges really are around the biggest one that everybody would say, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Ireland, you'd say, or Ireland or the US, you'd say workforce pressures.
Hmm.
So there are not enough radiologists
Hmm.
globally to meet the demand for radiologists, and AI might play a role in that,
Mhm.
but it's not going to fill the whole gap. So we've got a world where there's an increasing demand for diagnostics and not enough radiologists. So that is number one. So teleradiology
Hmm.
and Medica Group, the role that we play is in aggregating that scarce demand
Hmm.
and delivering it much more efficiently and effectively to clients worldwide. The second one would be workforce pressures. Second one, I guess, would be keeping pace with that technology. AI, digital pathology, remote diagnostics. This is a very nascent, fragmented, rapidly developing space. So
Hmm.
how can we put those tools into practice in a clinical setting in a way which is really safe, which has clinical quality and excellence at the heart? Isn't just about efficiency. We want that as well, in a way that supports radiologists and reporters rather than simply adding complexity.
Hmm.
And then the final thing I would say is around data interoperability.
Yeah.
So, the data generated, so healthcare systems and are throwing out huge amounts of data,
Hmm.
right? And that holds enormous potential for improving systems and outcomes, but only if it's all connected and you
Correct.
understand how it fits together and it's held to really high standards of clinical governance. So we're focused on workforce, we're focusing on harnessing technology, and we're focusing through improving clinical standards and outcomes through that tech.
Great response. Thank you. The other challenge that a lot of medical devices, wellness companies face is how can they balance clinical excellence with commercial growth?
Okay.
Face something similar?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question. I guess so at Medica Group and previously at Voyage Care and previously at Bupa, my focus has always been on clinical excellence and quality
Yeah.
because it's my really strong belief that actually, if you do those things, other good stuff will follow, commercial
Mm.
success or whatever it might be the thing that's important to you. So I think you always have to start with clinical quality and clinical excellence, and there will always be a role and a place for that. I mean, so what does that mean where I am today? It would mean different things in Voyage Care or in Bupa, but today it means rapidly delivering accurate, clinically useful reports as
Mm.
fast as possible. Turnaround times are really, really important. Medica has long been known for its quality. I'm very fortunate to have inherited an organization. I've been here just over a year that's known for having the best quality in the sector, but we now have the best and the fastest turnaround times in the sector on our urgent reporting. So that's great.
Mm.
But it's about ensuring that our reporting and our diagnostics generally helps the wider system. It helps the referring clinician or the wider healthcare system make the best
Mm.
decisions for their patients. So it's about clinical governance, about peer review, it's about tech investment, about all of these things. But for me, actually, Sash, the thing is, I wouldn't say I don't worry about financial outcomes. What I
Mm.
worry about is doing the most difficult thing first, which is clinical quality and excellence. And from that, growth and opportunities and good things always follow, in my
Mm.
experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well said. The other thing that I've often wondered, when it comes to healthcare service providers, is, if you're dispersed across so many geographies as Medica is, how do you maintain consistency and high standards across such a dispersed network?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge globally in healthcare and care delivery systems,
Yeah.
right? At Voyage Care, for example, in the UK, we're the largest provider of care and support for people with learning disability. We're in 600 locations. Here for Medica Group, we're in kind of 80 locations in the UK, another 20 odd in Ireland, and working in a number of different geographies from the US, but supporting worldwide clinical trials.
Mm.
So it's a great question. I mean, I think the first thing is we need a really robust clinical governance framework
Right.
that has significant clinical oversight that's led by doctors. We have mandatory peer review. We have ongoing audits to a far higher level than the national health systems would have in the UK or Ireland. So we're auditing many, many more cases and creating feedback loops and the opportunity for learning, real-time quality checks. We have standardized training and onboarding across all regions that we're constantly refining and reviewing the effectiveness of. Investment in technology. So all of those things are kind of processes in the way we think about what we can design. I guess the thing that underpins it all is the culture around what is it you're here to do. And that comes back as ever to me, for me, to purpose. You know, we are here to improve people's lives through excellence in diagnostics and research. And so to do that, you need an open and an honest culture, which is transparent, which has accountability at its heart, and which is about continuous improvement and learning. And I think historically that's been a challenge in healthcare systems, rather than aviation is always the example that's held up as a contrast by the way that the aviation systems sector has learned from errors and crashes and things. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do in healthcare systems worldwide about improving that. But for me, it has to be underpinned by that culture, transparency, accountability, continuous improvement.
Great response. You know, a few minutes back, Andrew, you were referring to what they're talking about, the incredible amount of data that is being generated.
Yeah.
A related question for you is that how are you addressing data security and patient confidentiality in an increasingly digital world?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. It's something that occupies us, our thinking a lot, as you'd expect. I mean, patient safety and confidentiality, as you expect, are a top priority, because for me, that's you can't deliver our purpose or be clinically excellent if you are not keeping people safe and you're not respecting confidentiality. So it has to be a top priority. I mean, we're fully ISO 27001 certified, which means that we have strict governance protocols around cybersecurity plus accreditation. We have end-to-end encryption, we have access controls, multi-factor authentication for all of our systems. We have ongoing monitoring. We regularly do cybersecurity audits and pen testing. So people will be familiar with it, I guess, but it's where you pay external firms to try and kind of crack and hack into your systems. We have extensive mandatory training for all of our teams and colleagues around information governance and compliance. So I think it's something that you just have to remain constantly vigilant. Right? You've never done it or finished it. It's a constant vigilance, but it's not something that you can ever take for granted. And without it, you undermine the whole of your clinical excellence agenda and the whole of your purpose. So it's super, super important for us. But yeah, something we work very hard on, but we're never finished, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well said. You also refer to the importance of developing a strong culture when I asked you a question about consistency across a big geography. What is your approach to building a high-performing, value-driven culture at Medica?
Oh, that's a great question. Again, this is something that needs constant attention. This is not something that you finish or is ever done. I always start with purpose. So our purpose is to improve people's lives through excellence in diagnostics and research, and that should govern absolutely everything that we do. And that means, in practical terms, that people should be thinking about their work and how it's advancing that purpose, how it's doing that purpose. So in other words, purpose, how you measure how you're doing, and what are the methods by which you're going to improve those measures. So purpose, measures, methods. I think you have to hire and retain people who align with those values about transparency, integrity, curiosity, humility, accountability. I think you have to invest in people. So you have to be clear what it is that you're doing, this kind of purpose. You have to hire and retain people who can deliver that. I think you have to invest in people. So education, mentoring, clinical development. I think you have to promote and live that culture of respect, of listening, of collaboration, both clinical and non-clinical teams. So, for example, the previous meeting I had this morning was around our town hall, which is a regular thing that we do. That's about access to me and other senior leaders. It's about having the ability to ask difficult or challenging questions, and for it to be okay, and for that to therefore reinforce that this is a culture where it's okay to say difficult or challenging or things that feel a bit scary. And it's about recognizing that excellence and innovation comes from every part of the organization. Yeah. My strong belief is that, you know, this idea of senior leaders as having the kind of wisdom of Solomon is fundamentally misplaced. If you want to make change and you want to understand what's going on, you have to go to where the work gets done. You have to speak to people on the front line. You have to have mechanisms created formally and informally by which they can share their kind of pain, their ideas, what they're working on. I suppose if going right back to the top of the conversation, I should touch the kind of, if I've been at all successful in my career, it's because I've asked people at the front line who do the job what they need, and then I've given it them.
Yeah,
which sounds a bit sort of flippant, but to me, it's always amazing how many organizations have barriers, culturally or formal barriers, and stop that wonderful insight. So yeah, it's never finished. It's constant reinforcement. And I repeat our purpose at the start of every communication that I do. And I'm sure that there would be people who've heard it 10 times. And if I went and said, what's our purpose? They would go, I'm not sure. So it never ends. It never ends.
Absolutely. Very well.
That sounds a bit depressing now I've said it like that, but it's intended to be a positive thing.
You're absolutely right. I have time for two more questions for you.
Of course.
When I was preparing for my conversation with you, I was fascinated to see that, you are actually contributing to reducing the NHS backlog in imaging and diagnostics.
Yeah.
How are you doing this? Or what are you doing that is different? Because you said more than 60 or 70% of NHS is managed through Medica.
Yeah, so it's over 50% of the NHS in the UK and 70-80% of the HSE in Ireland. So how do we do it? We have, so for example, if you were to have a suspected stroke or something overnight in England, you would go and present at the hospital, and the kind of speed of your treatment and access to treatment is absolutely critical. In a hospital in the middle of the night, how can they keep hold of scarce capacity radiologists and cope with hugely variable demand? And the answer is it's a real struggle, and they can't unless they're absolutely huge. And so this aggregation of scarce capacity that we're able to do, and we're able to offer radiologists and reporters the ability to work from overseas, or to pick and choose the hours that they'd like to do, to look at subspecialties. So the first thing is we are super flexible and we aggregate capacity. And what that means is we're able to tackle the backlogs. We partner with NHS Trust through our client portal, through our IT, through our kit. We triage cases through AI, through workflow pilots, through smart case allocation. We support elective recovery plans at lots of NHS trusts and hospitals with weekend and out of hours capacity. And we help trusts maintain service continuity during staff shortages or surgery. So for example, recently in the UK, there was a junior doctor strike. We are super happy and ready and flexible and able to step in and cover those periods of shortfalls, where, because demand doesn't change for those services, but staffing constraints can be a key thing.
Fascinating. And my last question for you, Andrew, as the Chief Executive Officer, where do you see Medica, or where do you see the role of Medica in shaping the future of diagnostic services in the markets that you operate in?
I would like us to be a truly global diagnostics provider, offering data and insight to global systems and making a difference to patients worldwide. It's about, we have decades of experience. We've been around for about 20 years. We have deep clinical networks. We have trusted systems. We have invested heavily in AI adoption, patient flow management, tech, and expanding our influence through things like white papers and clinical trials and imaging and digital innovation. So really, we are leading the way in terms of defining excellence in modern diagnostic services and everything that means in terms of tech, people, workflow, processes, everything. So yeah, I see us at the center of healthcare systems worldwide over the next 10 to 20 years. Amazing. Great question.
Amazing. And on that note, I just want to say what an amazing conversation this has been about your leadership of the Medica Group and the amazing work that you are doing in the UK, Ireland, and the US. And I'm sure you'll be looking at expansion in different parts of the world as well. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.